वो दानाए सुबुल ख़त्म रसूल मौलाई कुल जिसने गुब्बारे राह को बख्शा फ़रूग़ बाद ये सीखा निगाहे इश्क़ मस्ती में वही अव्वल वही आखिर वही क़ुरआन वही फ़ुरक़ान वही यासीन वही ताहा। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर अब्दुल क़ादिर सांजी भाई इंतहाई मखसूस अंदाज से आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की बारगाह रिसालत में हदिया नात पेश करने की सादत हासिल कर रहे थे। अब हमारे दरमियान बहुत ही मशहूर हमारी लोकल मस्जिद फॉरेस्ट गेट के आलमीन माशाल्लाह मौलाना पटेल साहब मौजूद हैं, तो वो उनसे गुजारिश करूँगा कि आज का मौजू और आज की महफिल जिस नाम से सजाई गई है अज़मत सहाबा के हवाले से, तो बराह मेहरबानी उस हवाले से आज इंशाअल्लाह जो सामीन हैं उनको अपने मखसूस अंदाज से बयान फरमाएँ। हज़रत इंशाअल्लाह अंग्रेज़ी में बयान फरमाएंगे, तो जो हज़रत सिर्फ अंग्रेज़ी समझते हैं तो इंशाअल्लाह उनके लिए भी फ़ायदेमंद होगा। मौलाना फरीद पटेल जी।
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह वकफ़ा वस्सलामुन अला इबादिहि अल्लज़ीना इस्तफ़ा अम्मा बअद फ़क़द क़ाल नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम इज़ा रअय्तुमुल लज़ीना यस्सुब्बूना अस्हाबी फ़क़ूलू लअनतुल्लाहि अला शर्रिकुम। रवाहु al-Imam at-Tirmidhi rahimahullah. I haven't got much time. I've been given 10 minutes to inshallah speak about this great topic, the greatness of the Sahaba. What I'd like to look at, because obviously this topic is very, very vast, and we can talk about many, many different things. I'd like to talk about this issue in terms of the attack on Islam. Because if we look at the attack on Islam, there's two main attacks that people have taken. You've got one attack where people attack Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in a hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَذَّبَ ابْنُ آدَمَ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ ذَلِكَ وَشَتَمَنِي وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ ذَلِكَ. That Ibn Adam, mankind, a human being, has called me a liar. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ ذَلِكَ. How dare he? وَشَتَمَنِي. And he has sworn at me. And it wasn't appropriate for him to do that. As for him calling me a liar, it's him saying that Allah Ta'ala will not resurrect me, will not bring me back to life in the way that he started me off in the first place. And as for him swearing at me, it is when he says that Allah Ta'ala has a son. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says quite clearly that I am one, I am independent. I have no children, I have no family, and there is none co-equal or comparable to me. Now, these arguments and people attacking Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they are done by the kuffar, generally. So we can tackle that quite easily by obviously preaching to them, and even if they speak ill about Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not something that we need to kind of really occupy our minds with, simply because it's not a threat to us. What is a threat to us is when people who claim to be Muslims attack the Sahaba. Simply because if a person attacks the Sahabi, he might say, he sounds quite innocent. He's saying that I believe in Allah, I believe in the Anbiya, I believe in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I've got an issue with the Sahaba. Now that might sound like, okay, he believes in Allah and his Lord, it's no big deal. But it is a massive deal. It's a very important aspect of our deen. Because if we don't believe in the Sahaba, if we don't accept their message, then we're getting rid of that link between us and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's not enough just to say that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is our Rasul. We have to also say that those links to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam are also important. Imam Tahawi rahimahullah puts it beautifully in his famous book, Al-Aqidah al-Tahawiyah. He says, وَلَا نَذْكُرُهُمْ إِلَّا بِالْخَيْرِ. We only talk good about them. وَحُبُّهُمْ دِينٌ وَإِيمَانٌ وَإِحْسَانٌ. And loving them is deen, is iman, and it's doing good, is ihsan. وَبُغْضُهُمْ كُفْرٌ وَنِفَاقٌ وَطُغْيَانٌ. And hating them, or having or harboring ill thoughts about them, is kufr, is disbelief, It's hypocrisy, and it's going against the deen of Rasulullah. It's that important. So that's how important it is. I'll give you an example to clarify that. If we look at the hadith, we see that Abu Hurairah, he narrates approximately 5,374 hadith. If we question him, then we're questioning hadith on salah, on Sawm, on Zakah, on all aspects of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life. So it's that critical. Imam Tahawi Rahimahullah mentions in his book, Ishara Ma'an al-Athar. Okay, he says in that chapter he's explaining that the Hazrat Abu Hurairah, his action was different to the same hadith that he narrates. So he narrates the hadith, he said Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said do this. Then we find out from his practice and from his fatwa that he used to tell people to do something against that. So now the accusation a lot of people say is that I'm going to leave what he says, I'm going to leave what the Sahabi says, and look at what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says. Now, Imam Tahawi, he puts it beautifully. He says, no, we're going to take what he says. He narrates the hadith. He said we can't even contemplate that he has left what he heard from Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He must have heard something else from Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because when we start questioning them, then we question his judgment and then his credibility as well. And then if we question that and we say we're not going to take the hadith, or we're not going to take his statement, or we're not going to take the point that goes against a hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then we're saying that all his narrations, every word of his is a lie. And that is very damaging to the. Now, this is extremely important for us. Now, how does this relate to the Qadianis? Now, one thing we have to understand is that the Qadianis are kafir. And there's no doubt about that at all. Now, there's a whole range of reasons for that. I've only got about 3 minutes left. But in here, I'll explain a few quotes from Mirza Ghulam, where he attacks the Sahaba. He says, one of his quotes, he says, जो शख्स कुरान शरीफ पर ईमान लाता है, उसको चाहे कि अबू हुरैरा के कौल को एक रद्दी मता की तरह फेंक दे. Now, and that's in his book. I'll translate that. It says, believes in the Quran should throw away the statements of Abu Hurairah like old and useless goods. Now, this is critical. Now, that in itself is a statement of kufr, because he's questioning all those narrations of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And that's why it's important we understand that. In another place, in about 1915, they had a magazine called Al-Mahdi, the Qadianis. This was the January-February edition, where there's a quote that says, Abu Bakr wa Umar Kiyata. This is what were Abu Bakr and Umar. He's not saying who were they. Look at the words of disrespect he's using. He said Kiyata. He said Gonte. That's the disrespect he's showing. वो तो हज़रत गुलाम अहमद की झूठी और कि तस्वीर खोलने के भी लायक न थे. These are the words he's used. He's saying that Abu Bakr and Umar, what were they? They weren't even worthy to tie the shoelaces of Ghulam Ahmad. Now this is why we say the Qadianis are kafir. And obviously there's plenty of statements. If you see Ghulam Ahmad's statements on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he describes Allah ta'ala as some kind of octopus with many hands and all sorts of things. So in some places he describes himself as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In his words about the Anbiya are quite clear as well, where he considers them to be like human beings and who were involved in the worst of evils. And this is why we need to be clear on this issue and understand quite clearly that the Qadianis are kafir. In this area now, we thought originally that the Qadianis, weren't around us, we don't have to worry about them. But now they're here in East London. Now they're attacking us directly. We're seeing their messages on the street. We're seeing their stores open up now as well. We're seeing their temples open up as well. We need to speak clearly about them, learn about them, and take part in the effort that's taking place here. I end with what Imam Tahawi Rahimahullah says. So that love for Sahaba is deen, is iman, is ihsan. Hating them is kufr, is hypocrisy, is nifaq, and is tughyan. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah.